pre-visualization. It is everything for us photographers, right? We come up with an idea, then we set out to create that image with our cameras. But how often do we fail? I know for me, more often than I'd probably like to admit. In the video today, we're off to chase an image that I've been trying to get for a few years now. The weather is looking like it's shaping up to be what I'm after. So let's get out there, let's see what we can do.
So I'm heading out to a specific valley. There's a mountain up here that just has a big, beautiful, characteristic shape from this specific angle. I've tried about 4 times to photograph it from this area and just never really got the conditions, because I really feel like it needs to have atmosphere with it. It needs rain, recent rain, to get a few waterfalls going off the side of the mountain. And then obviously you really want to get some kind of light in there as well. You know, you've got to be greedy, especially when it's a local location. Why not, you know, aspire to get the best possible image you can? So what we've got this morning is a big front coming through and then a huge clearing right behind it. So hopefully, if that clearing can come during the golden hour, which we're starting to get into now, then we could be the day. Who knows? We'll go find out. It's still raining now. Cloud base is pretty low, so at the moment it's not looking ideal, but things change pretty quickly here in the South Island, so we'll see what happens. So just going to have a look at the radar now. We're starting to get pretty close to where we want to be. I like to use windy to check specifically satellite imagery. Then you're getting it's not a forecast. When you're looking at the satellite, you can literally see, I can see that front coming in now. So it really helps you. You got to really stay ahead of the curve when it comes to landscape photography and start to read the weather and anticipate what it's going to do. Pre-visualize, okay, if it does this and this at this time, where do I want to be when that's happening? It's a pretty big part of photography. You've got to have plan A, B, C, D up your sleeve. So yeah, looking at the satellite now, so it's probably about half an hour away, which is fine. So that's good. Gives us a bit of time just to assess and see what happens. And even the clearing could come through, but maybe just the light in general is not good. But it's always exciting coming into a place where you have rainforest here in Fiordland. When you've got rain and then the rain stops and it starts to warm up, it's just atmosphere galore. It's like pushing the atmosphere button because you get all that evaporation coming out of the forest. So we're pretty close to location now. The mountain that I want to photograph is just on the right-hand side here. It's a big, nice point. But down here, there's just no foreground matter and we're way too close to the mountain. We actually need to get away from it. So it's on the left-hand side where I want to actually walk up a creek. Basically, it's moraine wall. It's old glacial moraine that we want to go up. A bit of bush bashing to get up there. That's going to give us that nice separation from the mountain, but also there's a creek, and the creek is flowing really well because we've got the rain coming down. It's been coming down the last few hours. It's critical for the image. But the cloud base at the moment is just too low. Can't even see the top of the mountain, so I'm just going to play the waiting game now. Wait for this clearing, wait for the rain to stop. It could be a fine line between being nice and atmospheric or just potentially being too clear and like a blue sky postcard shot, which is obviously not what we want. So once the rain stops, we'll start hiking, start walking. Been playing the waiting game long enough, so I think we're going to move on to plan B. It's just not quite backing off here, so I'm going to go try a different valley and hopefully the clearing's kind of started to shift in there and we'll get a bit more visibility on these mountains. So the rain has finally stopped. Mountains are still covered over, so this is plan B location. The goal now, it's very similar to the last location. You need to walk up the hill to look back towards a certain peak. That peak is completely covered right now, but what it is, it's a very nice angle on this specific mountain and there's a huge waterfall coming down the side. So we're gonna go for a walk. I have tried this one in the past as well and just wasn't able to capture something I was happy with, so hopefully today's the day. But we want to get up there to be in that transition where the clearing comes in and we get the atmosphere, because very quickly it's probably going to clear up and not look too good. Actually, this way. Let's go. Doesn't look like much, but this is a path to success right here. Took me a while to find this little spot, but it's going to lead us up a nice creek. My favourite part. Bush bashing to me, it's like an old friend. When I'm out doing this, it actually gets me in the mood for photography because so many of my images
are made having to push through this type of environment. So even just doing this now, I'm like actually waking up a bit more and getting in the mood for photography. There's going to be a lesson for today. I reckon it's about pre-visualization. You know, it's one thing to see something in the landscape, but it's so important as landscape photographers to be able to try and visualize, okay, how could that image come out? What are the elements I'm looking for to really make the most of the subject matter? The mountain that I want to photograph is that way, and when you're down on the road, you're often looking at everything to the left, but where I'm heading is downhill. Where I'm heading is the opposite direction and getting away, because I'm visualizing getting that separation from the subject so I can get some foreground and midground that flows towards that peak. That's why I'm following this creek up this side of the mountain so I can piece that together to flow back to that main subject. So you just often want to think about, don't just get drawn into where the subject is, turn around, assess the whole environment, and then try and put yourself in different areas with different foreground elements, midground elements, and try and imagine how that could look with the main subject. Oh man, it's looking good. All right, the peak is just starting to come out now. It's absolutely perfect when you got that atmosphere below the mountain. It just looks so much grander, and that can change like that. It'll be in and out. So, but once it's gone, sometimes it's gone for good. So I'm not gonna muck around. So why am I shooting now? Well, it's so barren here. We've got all the scree and then the cascades, and that's it. I want to get that green. So further up the hill, I can see there's a lot of plant life. I'm hoping to combine plants in the frame, then the water and rock leading to the peak. Can't muck around, let's go. Now, I didn't tell you guys, but I actually have been here before and filmed an entire video for YouTube, edited the video, and then never published it. And the reason was every time I looked at the still shot that I got, I just wasn't quite happy. And the other thing is I didn't have this 12 to 24, which is what I've got now. So this is the next attempt. It's been over a year since I come up here last to try the image. Look at the peak coming out now. So let's try and get some nice framing and composition. There's definitely a fair bit going on here, but I think the greens are critical and just really bringing the image to life. Otherwise it's going to be quite flat. Just waiting for a little bit more visibility on that mountain. At the same time, I've been looking at compositional options behind me. I mentioned pre-visualization. Now that has its part in the whole grand area that you're working with, but then once it comes time to composing your scene, especially with the wide angles, it really helps to pre-visualize how it's going to look. You know, with a wide angle, 6 inches is everything. A little bit left and right can really change your composition. So often I'm getting into the bushes and pre-visualizing, okay, how will all those leaves look in my foreground? When I'm standing next to them, I can't tell. You need to really get in there and set it up. But the more you use the wide angle, the more you can start to see the world at that ultra wide perspective. But at first, if you're not used to it, it's completely different. The key is getting close to the subject matter. Got a foreground here which I really like, these ferns. One other point of consideration is the angle of the creek. If you're ever using a stream or something, you want that to lead to the subject matter and not throw the eye away from it. So I had to kind of find the right area where the water flow was angling directly towards the peak. Just starting to see the summit now. We just need a little bit more visibility there. And then I'm going to focus stack, get these ferns in the front. The creek is in the midground, peak in the back. Beautiful atmosphere, just need a bit more visibility. One thing that's worth keeping in mind, if you're using an ultra wide, when you go vertical on the frame and you tilt down, you're going to get an extreme stretch on the mountain. And in my opinion, generally, most of the time, it actually helps to do the mountain justice, because with the wide angles, we get the pincushion effect. Anything in the center of the frame gets shrunken down, and that's not good for mountains. So if you can kind of angle down a little bit, it stretches the mountain back up and it just looks way grander. And it's obviously personal preference, but I think it can really work to your advantage in certain scenarios. So finally, we've got that visibility there, and oh man, that is perfect. Look at
humbled. The atmosphere and the layering, and now the peak up the top, not too much blue sky. Oh man.
Absolutely stoked, guys. Couldn't have been any better than that. So the patience really paid off. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions at all, leave them in the comments. And if you want to learn more about my workflow, just check out the link below for a sale on one of my tutorials. Thank you so much. See you in the next one.